I was 18 when my father packed up and walked out the front door. No warning, no letter, no final family dinner. Just the creak of the screen door, his silhouette shrinking down the sidewalk, and my mother crumpling to the kitchen floor like the world had let out its breath and taken her with it. He left us with nothing. Not even a bank account to fight over. The silence afterward was deafening. I remember standing in the kitchen, unsure of what to do, as the fluorescent light flickered above. My mother sobbed into her hands. Molly was crying in her bedroom. Jonah turned up the volume on his video game, trying to block it all out. And Maddie, sweet little Maddie, clung to my leg like it was the only thing she understood. That was the day my childhood ended. My mother had no job, no car, and no real plan. She'd spent her life pouring herself into our home, into him. She didn't know how to write a resume or pay bills. She didn't know how to stand up straight without a man beside her. So I became a grown-up. Overnight. I dropped out of community college before the semester even ended. I took a job at a diner on the edge of town, then added a morning shift at the grocery store unloading boxes before dawn. By evening, I was babysitting for 3 families in the neighborhood. I existed in a cycle of exhaustion. Whatever it took to make rent and keep the lights on. And my siblings? Molly was 15, moody and dramatic, always glued to her phone or sneaking out with her friends. Jonah, 12, was glued to his Xbox. And Maddie, barely 6, still needed help brushing her teeth. I kept telling myself it was temporary. A year, maybe 2. Just until things stabilized. But nothing ever stabilized. The years blurred together. I watched my 20s disappear behind bills, errands, broken down cars, and the haunting fear of losing everything. Molly dropped out of high school. School's not for me, she said like that was enough. She started hopping between jobs, never lasting more than a few months. Then she started hopping between boyfriends. Jonah? He stopped trying. He barely left his room, his eyes always red from too much screen time. I tried coaxing him into job interviews, but he always had an excuse. I'm not good with people, he mumbled once. Maddie, who I'd raised like a daughter more than a sister, was the only one who showed me occasional affection. But even she got used to a life where everything was handled for her. Laundry folded. Meals made. Bills paid. And my mother? She spent her days watching daytime television, disappearing into old memories. She had long since stopped trying to work. What's the point? You're doing fine, she'd say. No one noticed when I started graying. No one noticed that I never dated, never traveled, never did anything for myself. They just assumed I liked being the responsible one. It was a Tuesday, gray, drizzly, the kind that clings to your skin and sinks into your bones. I'd come home late from work. My feet ached. My head buzzed with exhaustion. I hadn't eaten since a granola bar at noon, and all I wanted was the leftover lasagna waiting in the fridge, the one thing I'd set aside for myself. My name was scribbled in thick black marker on the foil. A small act of self-preservation. When I walked through the door, the living room lights were off, the glow of the TV casting flickers across Jonah's face. He was sprawled on the couch, surrounded by crumpled chip bags and 2 empty soda cans. The air smelled faintly of grease and microwaved food. I kicked off my shoes, hung my coat, and headed straight to the kitchen. I opened the fridge with the anticipation of a reward hard-earned, and stopped. The glass casserole dish was there empty. A fork lay discarded on top like a flag of surrender. I stood there for a moment, gripping the fridge door, trying to breathe through the wave of disappointment. It was stupid, maybe. Just food. But in that moment, it felt like more. I walked back to the living room, my steps slow, my stomach churning. "Jonah," I said, my voice quiet. Too quiet. He didn't look up. Just kept watching whatever reality show was on, licking orange dust from his fingers. "You eat the lasagna?" I asked. He finally glanced at me, nonchalant. "I thought you already had some." I stared at him, waiting for an apology, for a flicker of guilt, for anything. But he just shrugged and turned back to the screen. That was it. I walked to my bedroom, closed the door gently behind me, sat on the edge of my bed, and I cried. Not loud. Not messy. Just quiet tears that slid down my cheeks without drama. The kind that come when you're too tired to scream. I didn't cry for the lasagna. Not even for the disrespect. I cried because, for the first time, it hit me in a way I couldn't ignore. I was invisible in my own life. Not unseen out of malice but forgotten through familiarity. The backbone of the household, expected to carry weight, not to rest. A ghost in the home I'd built and held together. A provider, not a person. And in that stillness, in the dim light of my room, the loneliness wrapped itself around me like a second skin. Something broke open that night. A quiet, unnoticed crack in a foundation already too worn to hold forever. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and wrote a list. At the top, I scrawled, what would make me happy? I hadn't asked myself that question in over 20 years. Silence. Sleep. Painting. A trip. I remembered the girl I used to be, the one who wanted to be a teacher, to live in Portland, to fill journals with poetry, to hang art on white walls and host potlucks with friends. Where had she gone? Buried under obligation. Drowned in sacrifice. I took a vacation day. My first in 10 years. Who's going to pick Maddie up from school? My mother asked, confused. Maddie doesn't go to school anymore, Mom. She's 22. She blinked at me. Oh. Well, what's gotten into you? I didn't answer. I just grabbed my keys and left. I drove to the coast, to a beach I hadn't seen in years. It was overcast, and the wind was wild, but I kicked off my shoes and walked in the sand until my toes were numb. I let the wind tear through me. I felt alive. That night, I booked a weekend retreat. A painting workshop in Oregon. You can't just run off, Molly said when she heard. What about Mom? She'll manage. You've always been the responsible one. Maybe I'm tired of being that. She looked at me like I was a stranger. At the retreat, I met women like me. Some were divorced. Some retired. Some just tired. We painted in silence. We talked about dreams. I rediscovered my love for watercolors. I painted the ocean. I painted a woman standing alone at the shore, her back to the world, her face lifted toward the clouds. I didn't want to go back. But I did go back. Just different. I stopped doing everyone's laundry. I cooked meals for one. I didn't answer every call. Jonah called me selfish. Maddie rolled her eyes. My mother asked if I was sick. Then, out of nowhere, Molly texted, I'm proud of you. I wish I had done the same. That message cracked something open in me. Maybe it wasn't too late. I'm 39 now. Starting again. I take painting classes every Thursday at the local rec center. I spend weekends exploring small towns nearby, staying in B&Bs, sketching old buildings, and sipping coffee alone in peace. I'm talking to a man I met at the workshop. We email about books and art. There's no pressure. Just possibility. My family still calls. Still needs. But I've learned to say no. Not out of anger. But because I matter, too. Sometimes I wonder what my life could have been. But then I remember this: I gave everything I had to help the people I loved. That was not a mistake. But now? Now I get to choose. Now, I am choosing myself. I walk barefoot through my apartment, music playing, sunlight spilling across the floor. A half-finished canvas waits by the window. My coffee is still warm. Outside, the birds chirp in the courtyard, and somewhere downstairs, someone is humming as they water plants. The air smells faintly of lavender and toast. I slide open the balcony door and step into the gentle morning light. My small patio garden, 3 pots of herbs and a tomato plant, is thriving. I run my fingers along the basil leaves and smile. I brew another cup of coffee and return to the canvas. Today, I'll finish painting the field of wildflowers I started last week. I'll email the man from Oregon. Maybe I'll suggest we meet halfway, some little town with a used bookstore and a quiet cafe. My phone buzzes, but I let it go. Whoever it is can wait. And for the first time in decades, I am not waiting for permission to be happy. I simply am.